Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. My name is Farah and I'm the founder of the Simplified model. And today we have with us Prudence Davis, who I'll introduce in a lot more detail. I wanted to give you some context into why we're hosting an event tonight called Executive Wellbeing. And the reason being is that leadership and the way that we take care of ourselves is no longer linear. It's no longer the same as it was decades ago, where you come home, you might watch the news on TV, you might have a fax coming through if you have a fax machine. You know, it's just a lot more analog back then. Whereas leaders today, from the moment they wake up until the moment they put their head down to rest, it's just non-stop stimulation, impressions, noise, and so much happening. And if we really look at it, it's louder than ever. And so when we look at executive well-being, the foundation for us to be able to thrive in this ecosystem is to step away from it and create an architecture for ourselves that allow us to thrive in that. And it really starts with your mindset in your inner game and how you give yourself that platform. And so what better guest for me to introduce and have with me today than Prudence. And Prudence, you're a jack of many trades. You own a Pilates studio. You just opened a matcha cafe. You're a mom of twins. And the list goes on. So thank you so much for being here. And I would love to pass the mic to you to introduce yourself and share with them who you are.
Thank you so much, Farah. And we talked about it earlier. It's funny to be back in this space because when I first started as a founding member 4 years ago, I started to do these wellness Pilates sessions, and it's so funny to see familiar faces here who's just been on the journey all along. But it's a little full circle moment to be back here and talking about well-being and wellness. But I think my approach to well-being and wellness is very balanced, holistic, but also scientific. I love to mix those, and I'm always curious. I'm also a judge in something called Danish Beauty Award, where I'm in the inner well-being, where I focus a lot on just testing and being very frank with the products and everything else. And then I also have a podcast called Healthline, Your Hotline to Health. We're entering the 3rd season, where I have a big focus on the female health and the female body, and also the mental health, because I experienced, especially postpartum with twins, that there was not enough information for me to gather around all these transitions we have in our life, especially as females. And I also navigate in a different way in a sometimes harsh world.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Prudence, at what moment in your life did you realize that well-being was going to be your gateway to success? Normally when people are doing many things at once, they just get lost in that, right? And so for you, what was that moment where you said well-being needs to be the priority, needs to be at the forefront?
I think it's very simple. It was when I lost my health. So I've been taking care of my husband for many years. He had cancer twice, and I did, in the beginning, I did not really know what it meant to be a caretaker, and also juggling work. I worked in the fashion industry, and it was a very fast-paced world, and I didn't really have that, I think, awareness of my body. I was a lot in my head and a lot in the future, and had a little scarcity mindset, and that's, I think that's very natural in terms of the circumstances. But then when I lost my own health, and I kind of figured out that, I couldn't live the life that I lived. I had to rethink everything. And I think I really got the biggest gift when I had to heal and restore myself, because I was so curious to figure out, what can I eat? What life can I live? And my nervous system was so broken and scattered that, it really responded very quickly to things that did not align and did not serve me, and did not give me that comfort that I needed to heal and grow. So it has been and it's still my biggest navigator in everything I do. And that's also why I created these spaces, sanctuaries, where you can tap into it and restore and get that sense of connection to yourself. So it's still a big part of my life and my journey, and I'm just so thankful. It's not fun to be in a lot of pain, but it's really meaningful to use that pain in your body, mentally, physically, to navigate, because it is small gifts, and the body already knows, the answer. So I think it's very important to have a life for myself where I can listen and navigate from it.
It's very powerful to go through something challenging and come out of it with an internal structure that helps you do even better and do even more. Usually sometimes when people go through hard things, the fear gets lodged in the mind. So for example, you talk about losing your health. Someone might think, if I push too hard, I might lose my health again. If I do too much, then I might go back there again. But you're just trumping through. So how can you tell us a little bit about how you fight those fears and limitations that can come in the way from experiences you've had? Because some experiences, they stay in the body. So even though you can be mentally strong, your body's rejecting it somehow. So how did you overcome that with something so challenging?
I think it's like a daily, taking one day at a time, but also it's a lesson, for me to listen, and I think, of course, I had an interview last week where she asked me, but you can never be stressed because you have to hold space for other people, and I do get stressed, and I also expose myself to stressors that helps me get relaxed and unstressed, and welcome everyone. But I think it's like constantly learning, and especially with twins. But for me right now, it's there's a lot, but I know it's a good stress. With Jonas and my husband, it was you don't know what the next day will bring. So I know, okay, no one is gonna die from opening a matcha cafe. That's not my I hope not, but
assess the risk.
That's so I think my system, but it has really taken a lot of unlearning and a lot of training and awareness for me. And I also experienced it when I gave birth to the twins. I was at a hospital for a long time because the girl was a little small, so we had to stay there, and my system could not understand, you're here, it's a good thing because you have children, but it couldn't really understand that nothing bad was going to happen. So I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly exposed to things that I haven't tried before, but my body remembers as something something I have to be afraid of, I guess.
It's like a consistent regulation.
Consistent regulation.
When it comes up, you see it, you're like, but it's a different time. This is now a celebration of hospital versus something that opens up the door.
It's and I also think my husband is also my biggest teacher because we're so different, but he's also really helping me and guiding me, and really he keeps me humble in so many ways, because in the end, the most important things are the family we have created, and everything else is second. But I think it's also, it's something I can see a lot of people need, so it's always nice to create something out of your own need, and then seeing that other people feel the same too, and it resonates.
Absolutely. And we're social creatures. We need that. We live in a world that is kind of pushes individuality, but we need each other. We need good friends, we need family around, whoever it is. It just helps A, to get you out of your head as well, and B, just to be in different perspectives and frames of mind and push that. When you hear, I don't have time, what do you hear? When
Yeah.
someone says, I don't have time to go
Yeah.
work out, I don't have time to go to the
Yeah.
gym, I don't have time, what does Prudence hear when someone says that?
That's a really good question. I think I hear it a lot. So it's,
Yeah, exactly.
it really depends. But I also think it's, I think I did that myself before I knew what it would mean to take care of myself and how important it was. I wasn't really, I don't think any of us is educated in, taking care of ourselves and what does it mean. And sometimes people connect it to something selfish, like, oh, okay, you're really, prioritizing yourself. But for me, it's either, not really having the experience of, knowing what it means not to have your health, not to be able to function mentally, physically. So I think it's maybe sometimes it's a blessing because it's also nice to not know what life can also but I think it's really a question of how important are you and where do you place yourself on that daily to-do list. And I think that's in the end it all comes down to responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility and no one is gonna poke you on your back and be like, you look tired, take a glass of water, sit down, relax. I think it's really something that we have to relearn and introduce. So I think it's either people not really having the experience of not knowing how important it is, or also it's about not prioritizing and not really maybe having the self-worth to say it's also important with me time. And I think it's a bad excuse because I think if I take people's phone and see they have a lot of hours of screen time, so I think we can always find a few minutes during the day if we really want to. But somehow the list it has to be turned around, so it's you first, you are nurtured, and then you have something to give and something to nurture, because you are responsible for your own well-being.
I love that framing, because you are responsible, and what you're saying really resonates. No one's going to come tap on your back and say, you look exhausted, go take a nap. No. It's up to you to feel what's in your body, feel what you need, and give yourself what you need ruthlessly. Because ultimately you can't hustle if you don't feel well. You can't thrive for your goals if you feel exhausted. It's just not fun, and it's not worth it to operate from that level. And so we also hear all the time, I feel overwhelmed, or I just don't have the time. And then when you dig a little bit deeper and you look a little bit under the surface, the excuses sometimes are hiding simply not knowing how. Like, how do I take care of myself? How do I make time in my day to reflect or rest? And so when we look at that, what would you say is your kind of non-negotiables about your internal architecture of like, I'm doing this for my well-being no matter what?
Yeah,
do you have something like that?
I think it's always, I think the best thing I'm doing right now is the things that I'm doing, I'm during the day, because of course if I have time, I'm gonna prioritize some movement. I always have my connection with some meditation, breath work, red light. I have my little setup at home, so it's easy for me to do. But I guess in the end, it all depends on my children. How are they? And then I adapt. This morning I got a quick training, and then I know after this I can maybe take a hot bath and a little red light. So I try to drizzle breaks, things that can nurture me, connect me to myself during the day. I also had a little massage before coming here, because I was but I think the most important thing is to just be aware that I can't keep going. I have to take some breaks. And sometimes it's walking a little slower. Yes. Sometimes it's taking some breaths at the toilet, definitely. Or also, just talking slower, doing things slower. I think it's just being aware in the end. But I think in the morning it's so sacred. It's such a special time. And in the beginning, when I had the twins, I was like, okay, how do I meditate now? Because they are just in my space. But then we do it together, and it's not perfect. You know, I get poked, I get scratches and everything. But it's all about sitting. It's all about being and just greeting the day and just finding a place where we can land together and see what the day has in store. So I think it's all about adapting all the time.
I mean, it's like the new moms who we were saying before, I don't have time, and when they have kids, they're like, I had so much time.
It's
completely didn't no indicator of like how much time I actually had.
No, but it's so true.
But it's absolutely right. And in order to rest more and take care of your well-being more, it doesn't have to be an overhaul. It can start with something so small as blocking 20 minutes on your calendar every morning just to sit without your computer, without really doing much, and just sitting there, or going to the washroom and taking a few breaths. It doesn't have to be this big overhaul. And because those little moves give you back more energy, with time it gives you more energy to do more well-being, because it feels so good that it gets addictive, and you start to see the impact of that well-being on your business, and you're like, this is just fuel. It's like gas to a car. Otherwise you're just on empty for most of that. So I want to ask you about discipline, because of course there's well-being and then there's discipline. And I have seen you hit the gym when you're in your last month of pregnancy, like Barry's double floor, no joke. I've seen you 14 days after giving birth, giving an award, so there's nothing really that's inhibiting your stamina to keep going and commit yourself to that level. Tell us a little bit about your mindset in those areas.
Yes, I will try to pin it down. No, but thank you so much for I guess it's a compliment.
Definitely.
But I think it's just, I know, how I feel when I nurture myself, when I show up for myself. It's so easy to cancel yourself when you are busy, and life is full of amazing things. But in the end, it all comes down to that, for me, baseline with having that connection to myself and my intuition. I think I owe that to other people, but I also owe it to myself, because I just know how it feels, not being there for myself, not showing up for myself. I feel terrible. I'm not present, and I'm not really connected to my intuition. That's a big part of my work, and especially my creativity. So it's so important to show up for myself. It's not easy, and sometimes it's harder than other. But I also I've paid some mental bills by not showing up. So I guess it's also experience. And I also know I think we can all have a routine and habit, and then life hits us with something, and then we have to adapt and change. But what I've experienced, especially from my husband, was that the second time around, okay, I had to hold on to something. I had to keep going, and I think that experience really taught me a lot about discipline with yourself, because it's in the end, maybe it's always when you feel good that you're like, this is fine, but it's actually also preventing a little bit, the roller coasters you can have sometimes during the week, or the stress you're exposed to. I know with myself I'm much more resilient if I'm having my practice and I'm following it. And it's also, really learning my kids that, you are important and you matter, and your health matter, and, work is not always, don't compromise your health for work or other people, because in the end, that's all we have.
100%. And the way that we're leading and the way that we're living, the youth are watching us. And I gave a talk recently to young entrepreneurs who are 16, 17, 18. And one of them asked me, but if I rest or if I take time for myself, isn't that bad productivity and weakness? And I was like, you're 18. You should be outside like building snowmen. Like this is the last of your priorities now. But maybe it's because at least when I was 18, like I wasn't thinking about building an empire or building a business. I was just being 18, right? Out with friends, enjoying family, going on picnics, whatever that is. And we need to give youth that agency back and not have them be CEOs by the time they're 22. All the pressure is on them by then. But you speak a little bit of intuition and being close to that. And faith is not something that is spoken a lot about in business. And if faith is something that you have and something that you believe in, then you understand the power of it and you understand how it shows up for you. Is that something that you lean into? Is that a part of your ecosystem?
It's a funny question because it's not something that I talk about a lot. I've been talking a lot about a lot of other things, but it's not really something that I think it's very private because I think it's of course a part of my practice, but it's not something that I share a lot about or show or talk about. But I think it's important to mention it in terms of like having something in your mindset that can anchor you, something that can keep you on track and something that you can always come back to. And I think that when I also work a lot with clients also and people, I think it's nice to have something that they can aspire to, when they feel a little lost or need some kind of guidance. I have a father who's he was very spiritual growing up, and my dad is from the Caribbean, so they are known for a lot of different things, and I was very like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Of course, there's always the initial resistance.
So I was my email was called like my dad's name and then anti my dad's name, and then it was my email address for many years. So I've been very resistant, but I guess I found my own way into just believing in general in something bigger than myself. I think that's also what kept me going when we were out of hope sometimes with my husband. You start, I think everyone prays in the end,
exactly.
So when you are, there's nothing more to reach out to. It's sometimes something higher, and I guess it worked somehow because I think blessings keep showing up, and the impossible got possible with so many things, and I think we all connect also deeper to each other when we have something that's bigger than ourselves. I'm just a little human. I'm not God or anything. I think that's so important to have that mental hygiene to keep yourself a little humble as well. So
I understand.
All I can say.
And it's not so much talked about yet. It's something that it's very hard sometimes to get through life if you're 100% reliant on yourself only. And it just connects you to knowing that in the end, it gives you a foundational confidence that no matter what, if it gets hard, if it gets tricky, if it gets complicated, you're good. It's like a insurance, indirectly insurance. Okay. Having conquered your health challenge and, coming out of that, obviously the outcome is just wonderful and extremely inspiring in so many ways. What do you feel that experience stripped away from you that you're grateful for?
I'm just grateful in general, I think, and also for life in general. But I think that it's just the little things in the end. I think it's just waking up in the morning and looking around and then see that my life is so full of love. It's and I think especially when I'm down at the matcha place, it's very, very moving to meet people, because in the end I feel like we're all the same, and you know, we all need that connection with each other, especially in our daily lives. And I feel I feel so rich in connection and love, and but also just being able to experience a life where my husband is here, he's alive and he's well, and he's playing with our children, and you know, it's just, you know, the small things for me. Having a home, having access to water, food, you know, the basics actually. It's and the small moments, and I'm just very grateful that I get to wake up every day, and I really love what I do. It's been a journey, and I'm so grateful for the obstacles as well, and all the challenges I've met, but it's just I'm just really grateful.
It's up to us to define what success means to us, right? Conventionally, success looked like one way. You have like a Porsche in the front yard, a mansion, a pool, and whatever comes with that. But when you speak closely to people, it's these things that make them happy. It's these things that give them fulfillment more than anything else. And when we look at, you know, executive well-being, and we circle a little bit back to that, there's so much more that we need to give ourselves that is beyond just the metrics and the numbers and how much we're making and how much we're not making. Obviously, you're building community. That's a success metric. You have people all around you that are supporting you, success metric. Family, success metric. So rather than feel the pressure of these external validations, which ties back to self-concept, right? Self-concept is something that comes up so much for us when we do our inner work, because it all comes down to that. If you have a self-concept that is tied directly to what you do as a value validator, then it's difficult, because your value is always going to be tied outside of you. If your self-concept is that you're not good enough, you're going to make that happen. You're going to realize that. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you manufactured your self-concept and how it came together, or what you can give in terms of information on that topic?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't think I have really thought about it a lot. I've just lived my life.
Just been
I've just wanted, but I guess the one of the pillars is always feeling good and feeling good in myself. And being, you know, also aware, but also having the capacity to withstand some of the challenges and the stress and the stressors we meet, because I think we all meet stressors every day. But it's like, it's such a blessing to be able to navigate and regulate that. So of course my health is one of my pillars, but I guess it's also having, you know, I was a lot into, you know, researching life and death in a period, and especially death, because it's not something we talk a lot about, but it's actually really interesting if you look at people who don't have a lot of time left, you know, what they wish they have done and had done, and the regrets and stuff. And it was not, you know, having more money or a bigger business or more meetings. It was actually the relationships that were, and you know, are important. And I guess some of that stuck. It's stuck with me, and it still does in everything I do. I want to have a good relationships to the brands I work with. I want to have a good relationship to the people, and I guess also all the things I do are, you know, connected to people that I know or have a relationship with somehow. And that's very important. I think also when it comes down to values, that's also important for me, that I know that they also have similar values and prioritizing, because I've also been, you know, where it's not that, where it's just outcome and productivity, as you say, and you know, I don't think you can put humans into a productive box when you work with health, but also, you know, it's I think it's very important to put the relationship, but especially the connection first, because the connection is, you know, very important.
It's so interesting, because you know, on a human level, we know this, right? On a deep level, we know this. We know what's good for us. We know what's exhausting us. We know what's kind of we're doing and we're overextending ourselves. So the question becomes, why do we keep doing it? You know, why do we keep doing things that just consistently put us in that same loop of exhaustion, of being in the noise, of looking for validation externally? And it's just... it's very interesting to reflect on, at the very least, because at the end of the day, something you can always ask yourself is, what does my deepest self say to this? You know, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I go this way? What do I feel? Well, what does your deepest self say? And when you let somebody answer that question, they have the answers, like we talked about earlier. And so the way to break this world of burnout and stress and overwhelm is to really take, you know, a page out of the book that we're reading today and just think, okay, how do I give myself back? How do I prioritize my well-being? How can I do things that give me more fuel? Am I a car that runs on empty, or do I want to put gas in the car, let it rest, and then go? It's like being on a road trip. You don't just do 10 hours straight. Your car won't let you.
No,
You know?
and it's also, I think you can do all the self-care in the world and take care of yourself, but if your environment is not nurturing and supportive, then you're just gonna, you know. So I think it's also, and that's also why I created these spaces. It's comfortable, but it's challenging, and you know, a lot of things for me. But it's in most importantly, it's safe for my nervous system in the places that I created, and that safety can, you know, get out to others, hopefully. So I think that's also important, to take a look at your environment and make sure it's something that nurtures you and supports you. And
What do you say to somebody that has a job where it's just, you know, stressful and stakeholders are just, you know, hard? And you know, it's the job they need, and you know, you have these kind of, not limitations, but thoughts that keep them where they need to be at that moment. What would you say to somebody that says, well, I can't leave the job and it's not the environment that's the ideal? How would you address that if you were in that position?
Well, I think I meet it often. I think last week I had a conversation with a friend who was in that position, and then she actually got fired. So it was a blessing.
Exactly.
Because but then, you know, I think it's really, and I have an education where I also teach people reformer Pilates, and a lot of them were actually mothers who, you know, and they still have really good jobs and really nice positions, but they don't thrive mentally, physically, and they don't feel fulfilled. So it's actually something that I meet a lot, and I think that it's actually the illusion of safety in a way, you know, being like, you know, I'm so safe here, this is, you know, all I can get, and this is the best, you know. So I think that's also an illusion, because nothing is safe. You know, you can lose your job tomorrow, or you can get in another department where you are not challenged, or, you know, things can happen, and nothing is constant or set in stone. So I think I will always try to encourage people to be curious about that mindset, and, you know, try to dig a little deeper on why they feel that they can only, you know, are only worth of this life with these limitations, you know, for their health, for their mental well-being, but also for them to thrive.
You mentioned something very important, and I love it, because it does come up often, and it's that illusion of safety. And if we know anything, if we're certain about anything in life, it is that everything is constantly changing. Everything's changing. The market's changing. Trends are changing. We're changing. The people that are around you are changing. You know, there's just so many things around us that are changing, and what creates this tension and creates this overwhelm is wanting to have that control, wanting to have constant control. And when you're working with executive leaders and C-levels and founders, there is that illusion of safety that they strive for. However, in reality, it's just them wanting to control it. They want to know the answers. They want to be 5 steps ahead. It's just so much control that is what ultimately depletes them and just makes them, you know, very difficult to slow down.
So true.
And so
I think that's also what I when people ask me, well, are you, what do you know what's going to happen, and what if it doesn't go? And I'm like, it's not an option in my head at all.
Yeah.
But I have a husband who's, he's working in finance, and he's very a safe person, and he has really buckled up for life in so many ways. So I guess it's, and I can totally understand, but I think it's something really fundamental in people, when they crave that kind of external control.
Yes.
So I think it can really be a blessing and a learning to look into that and try again to create a safe environment for yourself. I give him diffusers and matcha and red light to his office, and then everyone is like, what is happening over here? And they have crazy lightning in there that also depletes them.
Definitely.
So I think it's interesting when you look into your environments and just see how can you change it, how can you make it nice while you're there, because if you are stuck in something, or you are somehow tied to something, then I think try to look at it in a different way, and also try to make it nice while you're there. Maybe you can change your perspective somehow.
That's very true. And when you speak to people and you say, what is it that you want? The predominant answer is freedom, right? But what we often don't realize is that we put our own handcuffs on ourselves and we take our own freedom away. And when you itch a little bit beneath that surface, it's not so much freedom, it's fulfillment. And in order to have fulfillment, you need to liberate your mind from these tensions, from these controlling elements, and you need to trust life. And sometimes you need to have that experience where life shows you can trust it, and then you're just like, oh, okay, whatever happens, you'll handle it. You have that agency, because how bad can it get? You have to also trust yourself in that. And I remember when I was living in Hong Kong, I went into the office one day, and my boss had tears in her eyes, and I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, come with me to the room, we need to speak. And I was like, okay, this doesn't sound good. We go into the office, and then I said to her, are you firing me? She's like, we're all fired, the company's becoming redundant. And I was like, damn it. Living in Hong Kong, super expensive, everything just costs a lot. And I went home, and I remember thinking, okay, let's not go into a frenzy. Let's not start pumping out CVs like it's the last day on earth. And let me just stop and think, what do I need here? And then the course of the year and a half that went forward, I didn't end up applying to more jobs. I wanted to see what I can do on my own. And somehow, whatever capital I needed to cover the bills showed up, whether it was a freelance or a consulting job, or I once received a check in the mail from Hong Kong government, and I'm like, not even a resident here. And then it just taught me that you can think you're falling, but no matter how far you go, you'll always get caught right before you hit the ground. And that kind of turned on this life gamification for me. Then it became like, okay, let's play with life. Put fear aside, put doubts aside, and let's play. I love what you said, I'm not going to die from opening a matcha shop. Right? There's bigger things out there that can harm my health, but this is a beautiful place. And so when you can liberate your mind and put the fears away, then life becomes more playful for you, ultimately.
Yeah. And I think there's a reason why we have fear. I think it's very healthy to have fears and insecurities, and I also have that. But I think it's also important to, when you are tired of repeating that fearful cycle of, then somehow start to look into it before it's too late, or before you lose your health, or things that you really care about, because in the end I think that's our biggest blessings. The things that I've been most scared about has really learned me a lot and taught me a lot, and is still learning. I'm still learning every day. And I think fear and things that are uncomfortable, we need to, when we can go through them, we can get actually sustainable, comfortable in ourselves and our bodies. Because I think it's always in the things that we try to avoid, that's where we need to go.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I see it every day also when, in my sessions, when people are like, oh, I can't do this, or it's also something that they take in, in their everyday lives and in the way they run their business,
Yes.
That it's really in the uncomfortable places that we have to look. Yeah,
it's very true. And What people don't realize is that the way that they're thinking about work also shows up in the home, in their relationship with their friends and family members and loved ones, within themselves. It's not linear in just one area. You know, if you have a fear where you don't trust anybody, or you have a fear that you're not good enough, it's showing up everywhere. It's on the walls, right? And so it's definitely important to push yourself in those areas, and the more you go into that unknown, you actually expand your capacity for stress. Suddenly what scared you before, you're like, but I know my body can do this, I know my mind can do this, and then you have that new pathway to go even deeper in that. Is there anything that you consciously avoid or choose not to pursue just to keep your well-being protected?
Oh, yes, I think there's a lot of things. I think that's a really good question. I try to take one day at a time and just keep my eyes on the road and the things that I know nurtures me and the things that are working. But of course, when opportunities come in, I try to challenge myself. But I also, you know, I'm very, especially after having children, I'm very mindful around my time. And if something doesn't resonate, if something is off, you know, I'd rather say no, or you know, stop it before pursuing it. But sometimes it's hard to know before you get started with it. But I definitely say a no a lot, and I don't feel like I have anything to prove or anything I have to. You know, except for my family and my husband, and you know, but just in general, I think it's important for me to be able to be a good friend, to be a good human, to be nice on the biking leg when everything is busy, you know. But also, just you know, is it my ego who wants this opportunity, or is it, you know, something that can nurture me but also grow into the future? I think that's very important. And is it something that's aligning with everything that I have created? That's also very important for me to look into. But I guess I'm saying no a lot, but I'm also saying yes to things that I dream about, or somehow imagined.
Yeah, because the more you want to do, the more time becomes your most valuable asset. And so you really need to get good at being ruthless with where you put time, energy, focus. And, you know, we have the syndrome of busy being busy, but what are you actually doing? If you check off your entire to-do list, what actually moves, what actually grows? Usually not much. And it's because you're just busy being busy. But when you can be very intentional with how you spend your time, focus on what aligns with you, focus on what excites you to do it, then it changes the game in many ways. So that's very true.
Yeah, I can have, you know, a crazy week like last week when we opened and everything, and then I'm like, okay, I need a day at the library with my children, or you know, it's so important. I think it's, you know, it's you have to stop sometimes and you look at your life and say, you know, what's meaneful, and when I look back, will this be something I will remember? And these people in my life, are they challenging me and also nurturing me? I think that's also important.
You got the keys to your shop like what, 4 days before opening or something?
2 days.
2 days.
Something. That was not fun. No, I can't recommend it. We also had some sick twins and stuff, it was insane. But then we were like, we had the Kira Bala is making the pastries, and she said, because this weekend we took the weekend off, and we're just like, we need a date, we need to chill with the twins, and she was like, wow, you just opened, are you just gonna take a weekend off? And I was like, yes, we're gonna work a long time, hopefully, and we're gonna have a long life. So, you know, this is not gonna change anything. You know, we don't. We're doing it in our pace, and
That's an important perspective. You know, life is long, and we intend to work for as long as, you know, we want to. So what is the rush to constantly be on, constantly be present and just make everything happen yesterday? So giving ourselves like a generous timeline just softens things up and lets us do things with more joy and intention and just presence and breaths. you know, otherwise it's just, you might as well be running with your eyes closed. It's just nonstop. And it doesn't stop.
No, and I think it's also important to just reflect on, you know, how do you, I know what kind of feeling I want in my everyday life, and it resonates with me when I enter that every day, into that space every day, if I have that intention with me.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. It's we talk about sometimes what is your dominant home base emotion. So what is the emotion that you're feeling the most on a day-to-day? Is it worry? Is it stress? Is it joy? Is it fulfillment? And then find your home base emotion and then challenge it. If it's stress, how can you leave it? Switch boxes. Choose a different emotion and keep feeling it, even though it might feel like imposter syndrome in the beginning. Like, how can I not be stressed and feel this joy when I don't really feel it? But a lot of the time, if we've been stressed or worried for a while, we're addicted to the chemical reaction that's happening in our body. And if you start to feel joy, your body's like, no, give me that stress back. I'm used to that now. So it's like a reconditioning and rehabit building in the mind there. So I think it's very important to mention that. Focus on the emotion that you want to feel every day, because that will ultimately be your North Star in your day-to-day.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say, I think that also surprised me when you get that thing you wanted or dreamed about. You know, you really have to learn your nervous system that it's safe and it's okay, and it's okay to be happy, and it's okay to be grateful for everything you have. I think it's much easier sometimes. I can see that myself to navigate after, you know, the old emotions sometimes when you're stressed, of like worry or wanting to control the future or prevent, or, you know, focus on the external things.
It can be challenging because for so long you're in like survival mode, and then suddenly you're like, the triggers that were there are no longer here, so why am I still running or surviving? And that's when you have to sit and do the work a little and set the intention and find that other emotion and train your body that it's safe. And of course it's much easier said than done, but otherwise, if you don't do the work and you feed that back into your well-being, your automatic programming is just going to keep you in that loop. And, you know, your thoughts become your actions, and if you don't do anything about them, they become your personality. And that's what we want to avoid. You know, you want to avoid that becoming your identity versus just something that happened that you then conquered and you made something great out of it. So
I think otherwise it will never stop if you're not, you know. You will just, you know, as you say, something internal has to be some kind of navigation for you and everything you do.
Yeah, because the mindset wants certainty. The mindset doesn't thrive when it's uncertain. And so if something happens, it's going to look for whatever is known to it. It's going to put meaning behind a situation, and it's going to box that in. And unless you're not conscious of that and you don't let those automatic, you know, definitions of situations take over, then you can actually rewire that. And you can say, okay, this was something that happened 5-10 years ago, but now I'm just sitting here having a conversation with Prudence. It's safe, it's good, it's relaxed. And so we really have to know that we have full agency over which thoughts we choose. And because we have that agency, it's just extremely powerful. So, okay. I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to pass the mic to the crowd and see if anyone has questions for you. When your twins are all grown up and they come to you and they say, Mom, give us your best piece of advice. What should we keep in mind as life goes on? What would you tell them?
Oh, yeah, I think that will maybe change when in 20 years or so. But I think it's always to be curious. I think that's a nice navigator and life force. I think when we stop being curious, we kind of lose that.
Yes.
Fulfillment or excitement in life. You know, it's as you say, it's so easy to go into autopilot and just we're in a routine and we're doing the things that
Yes.
we know and are familiar, but also be curious about people, especially people that you're not always agreeing with, or people that are, again, triggering something in you, because I think those are the biggest blessings sometimes. Be curious about different cultures, different ways of thinking, different emotions, and also just be humble. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Sorry.
Does anyone have any questions for us this evening? Yeah, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having us. I actually have a chronic illness, and when I was diagnosed back in 2016, I felt that I had to do everything. I have to get a master's immediately. I have to move to a foreign land. I have to get married. I have to land the best job. I have to do a PhD, and because I have my days counted. That's why I thought. I didn't have them, but that's why I thought. When you lost your health, did you have a similar feeling of I have to achieve it all today, or how did you manage?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think I had to manage, but I was like, I have to live life now, because I don't know how long but I didn't. It was not so much external, it was more like internally. I have to heal and I have to recover. I think that was my intention, and I also have to get the fullest out of life, I think, and that's still a guidance for me, like have a full life and not take anything for granted. I guess that's very classical to say, but it's actually true. And then when people ask me like, how can you do so many things, I'm more like living so many things, so many different phases as possible, because I want to get as much experience as possible. So I guess not so much with like wanting to do a lot of stuff, but just outlive a lot of stuff and a lot of versions of myself, I guess. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Thank you. Tak.
I love that framing on all the things like I have to do just becomes all the things I get to live.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
So
right?
true.
Life
Yeah.
is a privilege.
It is. Yeah. Tak.
Any other questions? Going once?
No.
Going twice? No.
Yeah. So nice.
Yes.
I have maybe a
Yeah, please.
between, like life happens at the end of your comfort zone and like when things are not comfortable, because I'm also very much seeking being comfortable and trying to achieve that. Like how do you navigate that best, like as a
Yeah, as wanting to be comfortable, or yeah.
But like navigating when is it like not comfortable anymore, like getting stuck in that cycle of being uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say comfortable with the uncomfortable, but like
Yeah.
this cycle of being caught up in
No, something uncomfortable. Yeah. As I think it's always interesting because it hits you in different ways, right? In different situations, but it's kind of the same function that happens, and then we all have different, I think, habits and things we reach out for when we are uncomfortable. But it's kind of the same that I experienced again and again, is that I need to just take a break, take a moment, and then really get back into myself and take responsibility for what I'm experiencing. Sometimes we can feel that life is happening at us and coming at us, but I think it's really our internal life that determines that. And I know myself, and I'm still trying to get to know myself every day, but I can just see if something internally or externally happens to me, that I have a pattern, and when I am tired of repeating that pattern, I'm good at stopping up and just saying, okay, what is happening? What is life trying to show me? And then I try to use my practice every day, getting into my body, just in general getting through it in a way. That really helps, to instead of avoiding it and trying to see comfort in short-term things that make you comfortable. Eating an ice cream, that's also nice, but you're not feeling good after that. So it's actually seeking more things that are uncomfortable in a sustainable way. Does that make sense? It's not, but it's not comfort that's gonna help you be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. It is actually being even more uncomfortable that's gonna help you, be sustainable, comfortable.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, completely.
I hope it makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Then you get in the loop of almost escapism a little bit. And then you just and it's like McDonald's, ice cream, fries.
Yes,
Instead of just sitting down and saying, what's the problem here?
Richardson is only gonna push your problems 1 hour or two away. Yeah.
Yes.
So true.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't know. Hi.
Thank you so much for this very insightful conversation. My question was about you signaled something that some parts of your life you kind of lost your good routine a little bit, or it has changed over time. What made you to go back to it, or kind of like what had to happen so that you realized all the benefits you had through your breathwork and meditation and all kinds of other things? Maybe you haven't said everything here that you do, but what kind of had to happen that you then managed to get back into it?
I guess it was just being uncomfortable and tired of being in a state or emotion, if it makes sense. And then everything else, like Farah said, so beautiful. It's like everything else falls apart, and it impacts my life and my relations and the way I show up. So I guess it's I can try to, but I'm gonna be confronted anyway. Yeah. Hope it makes sense. Yeah. Tak.
Because once you experience that feel good, right? Once you experience who you are after a routine, after the things you do that make you feel good, it gets addictive. Even sometimes it's okay if on a day or two you miss a workout, but if you consistently start to miss them, you and yourself, you're going to feel like, I need that. I need that movement, that release, that stillness, whatever it is that you're going for, whether it's just sitting in silence or going for a run or whatever it may be, because you feel like you're better with it ultimately. So you just get addicted to it.
You get addicted, and I think I'm addicted to feeling good. I think
that's a great addiction.
But it's it really is, and I also think that everything else feels better when I feel better and I show up for myself. I also think that, it's hard because, as we talked about, no one is gonna poke me, but I think it shows up if I'm aware and I'm present. And my husband would definitely also be like, you need to work out. It's been, it's like, what is happening?
There's too many mood swings here. Go deal with that.
So he's a good, he's really, really good. But I guess it's also... it's just very clear, but I guess I also know what bill will come. I can maybe postpone it, and then, but it's also so easy to disconnect and feel disconnected. When you don't show up for yourself, and also you forget how it feels very easily. How it feels to feel good and how it feels to feel connected to yourself. And I guess it's also something I see a lot with clients, especially around nutrition. They're starting on something and or a new habit, and then they are really good and very dedicated and very disciplined, and then one day they just slipped, and then it's just like, doesn't matter, let's just throw it out. I'm just like, what, doesn't matter, get back on the horse, because life is not 100%. Maybe you can go 80-20 on something, but it's just as we talked about, discipline, and the more times you fail or feel obstacles, it's just a blessing and a lesson in the end.
Yeah, that's very important. Like, let life have its like volatilities. It doesn't have to be 100 every day. And as human beings, we're not really programmed to be 100 every day, because every day you wake up with a different energy level. Some days you feel like you can conquer the world, and other days you're like, nah, maybe I'm just going to hang out a little and do some softer things. And all of that is okay. It doesn't mean that something's wrong or you're losing it, or, whatever thought pops up. And we just have to be more compassionate with our self-narrative and the stories we tell ourselves, because what happens in here ultimately is influencing how you're experiencing life around you. And if you don't take a check of the thoughts in your mind, it really does just take over, and it dilutes your life experience. A thought is just a thought. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So if you give it attention, you'll make it your reality. If you choose to shift focus, then you'll create a new reality.
Yeah.
So if you miss a day, don't fall down the hill.
No. And
it's all good.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to see if you keep going back to that scarcity mindset, like be curious on, okay, why am I, what is happening? Is it my environment? Is it something, I can eat some chocolate and then feel terrible 2 hours later? Maybe it's that, be curious about, why am I feeling like this? There's always a reason. And I don't think we are programmed to think positive thoughts. No. We are not. We're actually the opposite. So there is a reason. And I think we also need to really give ourselves some more grace. Yes. Because we're humans, we're not robots, and we're doing the best we can every single day, and we're learning and making mistakes, and but I think in the end it's all about your why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I showing up? I have a really strong why, because I know if I don't, what will happen. So, and it's also okay to lose that why and find another why. And so just meeting yourself with grace, but also being a little more creating more space for yourself, and also changing. I think for me now, because I've grown up in the 90s, where it was not maybe the most healthy culture of health and body, and I'm so allergic to diets or something strict. It's like if someone tells me you can't eat that, I'm just gonna do it, or you can't do that. Okay, I really want to do it. So it's also, being very curious about, how do I function best if something has to happen. I just know my environment has to be nurturing, and it's something that helps me to maintain all my routines, so I don't have to think about it. And then everything becomes more like a ritual in my life. Making food and cooking. I take a glass of kombucha, I put on a nice song. The twins are playing, try to make things more like a ritual instead of like a rigid habit, because you also have to enjoy it.
If it feels like a to-do list, the commitment is going to stagger big time.
It is.
And you also mentioned something that's important that kind of directs into this, and that it's just very important for people to think for themselves and to do what feels right for them, to find a why that makes sense for them. Don't look at how other people are living, what they're doing, what they're building, what they're creating, and think that's the benchmark. I need to do that. Otherwise, then that limiting thought comes up. If I don't do this, then I'm this. And limiting thoughts and beliefs, like, they're so tricky, because sometimes they can feel like a wall, but actually, like, they're a flimsy wall. You can go right through them. So every limiting belief that you have is just a flimsy door. And if you can have the awareness to notice it, then you can just push it out of the way and keep going. But when we compare ourselves to what success conventionally looks like and what others are doing, then you just build more walls up around you. So you can have a softer why, you can have a bigger why, you can have whatever works for you. Just do it because it's what feels right to you. It doesn't have to be what anyone else thinks. I think that's just self-empowerment in a world where there's so much impressions and comparison as well.
Yeah, and I also have a question for you, Farah, just to take the last. It's just like, why is it, do you think, that people, they know what's good for them, they know maybe what to do, what they thrive in, and somehow they still don't do it? Like, why do you think that is?
Yeah. I think from my experience, what I've seen is that discipline. Discipline and commitment comes up across all levels of clients. It doesn't matter if they're investors, C-levels, founders, it doesn't matter. Discipline and commitment is such a challenge for many people. And what you mentioned earlier really shows up. It's like they're committed. One day slips, it's all over. You know, they're not back for months. So I think the discipline and commitment part is huge. And I think the second part is they don't go deep in it enough to feel how good it is. And then that magnetism keeps them coming back. Because discipline, and whether it's in the way that you work or the way that you take care of yourself or in your little rituals, if you don't experience them for long enough, that inner magnet that shows you how valuable they are for you never gets strong enough to keep pulling you back. And so what ends up happening is they wander. Like they escape it. They'll do other things, they'll be busy being busy and kind of be occupied in different areas until that one thing that they actually need to do keeps calling them back. So I think that's what shows up the most. And I think in my own experience, because I've just been committed to this for such a long time, I cannot show up in a day-to-day in a different way, because I know I'm going to be different and you're not going to like it. You know, so when I show up for myself, I know that I can show up better for others and I can have more fuel to do what I love, and it's just a different state of being that is just more preferable for me anyway. So
makes sense. Yeah, thank you.